Welcome back to another installment of This Week in NBA History. This week we'll be looking at April 10th through April 16th. If you're enjoying this series, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for all the support recently. Let's start in the 80s. On April 12, 1982, Adrian Dantley of the Utah Jazz put up 53 points in a 151-136 win over the Denver Nuggets, one of 6 times he scored 50-plus in his career. In this same game, an NBA record was set when the Nuggets and Jazz combined for 91 points in the first quarter, with the Jazz scoring 50 and the Nuggets scoring 41. Both teams shot over 55% from the field, and there was only 1 3 made throughout the entire game. This record was tied on January 9th, 2021, when the Heat and Wizards also combined for 91 points. Now we go from a high-scoring game to the lowest-scoring game in NBA history by a team when the Chicago Bulls on April 10th, 1999 scored only 49 points in a game against the Heat. The Bulls shot an abysmal 23.4% from the field and went 0 for 9 from beyond the arc, a statistic we will most likely never see again. Their leading scorer that game, Cornell David, who came off the bench with a whopping 13 points. Safe to say that years after Jordan have not been kind to the Bulls. On April 11, 1960, the OG king of the triple-double, Oscar Robertson, was drafted first overall by the Cincinnati Royals. The Big O had a fantastic career, winning the 1963-64 NBA MVP, was a 12-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA selection, was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and was a member of the 35th, 50th, and 75th anniversary teams. If you guys remember last episode, we talked about the Mavericks scoring only 2 points in a quarter. Well, this time they're on the other side of a record as they were a part of the most points scored in an overtime period by 2 teams. In a game on April 11, 1995, the Mavericks and Rockets scored a combined 46 points in an OT period, with both teams scoring 23. The Mavericks eventually won in double overtime, 156-147. Jamal Mashburn had 42 in the game, with Jason Kidd close behind with 38 points on 8 of 12 from deep. On April 11, 2014, Corey Brewer came out of absolutely nowhere and dropped 51 points against the Rockets. His career high before that game was 28 points, and he never came close to scoring 50 again. To this day, it is the only time he scored over 30 points in his career. Fun fact, Brewer has a higher career high than Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Chris Paul. April 12th is a big day for big names to put up big numbers. Kicking it off is MJ when he scored 53 points against the Pacers on April 12th, 1987, one of 31 times he scored 50-plus in his career, and you would end up having 3 50-plus point games in that same week, including a 61-point outburst a few days later in his legendary 1987 campaign. On April 12, 1997, Allen Iverson had the first 50-plus point game of his career against the Cleveland Cavaliers. He would score 50-plus points 11 more times in his career. On April 12, 2009, Dwayne Wade dropped his career high of 55 in a 122-105 win over the Knicks, one of his 3 50-plus point games in his career. Wade had all 3 of his 50-plus point games in 2009, one in February, one in March, and this game in April. On April 12, 2015, Russell Westbrook had his first 50-plus point game when he scored 54 points in a near triple-double performance against the Indiana Pacers. Unfortunately, his team lost the game despite his efforts. Last but not least, we have Stephen Curry, who scored 53 points in a win over the Denver Nuggets on April 12, 2021. One of 12 times he scored 50 or more. He hit 10 threes in the game as well, one of 23 times he's done that in his career. April 13th is a historic day for the Lakers and Celtics franchises, as they both won their first ever championships on this day, the Lakers in 1949 and the Celtics in 1957. These 2 franchises have won nearly half of all NBA championships to this day, winning 17 each. On April 13, 1996, Hakeem Olajuwon blocked 10 shots in a 112-111 win over the Dallas Mavericks, one of 11 times he had 10 or more blocks in his career. And he nearly had a quadruple-double in the game with 31 points, 13 boards, 10 blocks, and 6 assists, one of the most loaded stat lines I've ever seen. On this day in 2016, the late great Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba, played his final game in the NBA and went out like the legend he was, scoring 60 points in a 101-96 win over the Utah Jazz. The Mamba scored 60-plus 4 times in his career, but this one was special. Rest in peace to the Mamba. On April 14, 1962, another Lakers legend, Elgin Baylor, scored 61 points in a 126-121 win over the Boston Celtics. This was actually Game 5 of the 1962 NBA Finals and is a finals record that still stands to this day. Baylor attempted an incredible 46 shots in this game and also grabbed 22 rebounds. Gotta love the 60 stat lines. Speaking of crazy stat lines, on this day in 1988, John Stockton racked up 26 assists in a 128-123 loss to the Trailblazers. This was one of 3 times Stockton had 25 or more assists in his career. Now, we've already talked about some role players who have had crazy stat lines in this video, so why not add another one? Because on this day in 2008, Ramon Sessions of the Milwaukee Bucks had 24 assists in a 151-135 loss to the Chicago Bulls. This was his career high in assists by far, and it was during a stretch of games where he had 6 10-plus assist games in 7 games. Too bad this was the peak of his career in just his rookie season. Let's stick with the theme of big assist games, because on April 15, 1984, John Lucas of the San Antonio Spurs had 24 assists in a 157-154 win over the Denver Nuggets. A couple of crazy things about this performance. 1, Lucas came off the bench. 2, he scored 0 points in the game. And 3, he broke the record for assists in a quarter with 14 in the second quarter of this April matchup, and he broke his own record for assists off the bench. What a way to end the season for Lucas. Now back to the scoring side of things. On April 15, 1995, Glenn Rice put up his career high of 56 in a 123-117 win over the Magic. This was the lone 50-point performance of Rice's career, and he did it with extremely good efficiency, shooting 20 of 27 from the field and 7 of 8 from deep. Since the NBA playoffs are in full swing, how about some playoff records? The 76ers on this day in 2019 scored 51 points in the third quarter against the Brooklyn Nets in Game 2 of their first-round series, tying a playoff record for most points in a quarter. The 76ers shot 72% from the field in the third, with 3 players scoring in double figures. It took me all the way to the last day of the week to mention Wilt Chamberlain, but the man has too many records to not be in this video. On April 16, 1967, he secured 38 rebounds and set the record for most rebounds in a half in the playoffs with 26. Most players don't even have a single game with 26 boards, and Wilt grabbed 26 in a single half of play. Unbelievable. He also had a triple-double in the game, which I'm sure you probably assumed that. But this stat line also proves that Wilt was not good at everything, since he shot 2 for 17 from the charity stripe. Now back to passing. On April 16, 1993, Scott Skiles of the Orlando Magic dished out 21 assists in a 113-110 loss to the Cavaliers, one of 4 20-plus assist performances of his career. Fun fact some of you may not know about Skiles is he holds the record for most assists in a game when he had 30 in 1990. That concludes this edition of This Week in NBA History. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.